What is up, guys? Up in my own attic. Always a fun crawl, but at least there's a catwalk here, which you don't always get here in Maricopa County, where they don't enforce codes. So this is the air handler I put in, I don't know, like 5 years ago, whenever I got that free Lennox 3-phase unit I installed for my upstairs AC. Dropped it down to a 3-ton, so I got this air handler, pretty good deal on it. The Lennox was free. Then I took out the Lennox to use that tall, slender Frankenstein that I've been using for the last couple years now, I think. It's probably the second summer, maybe, something like that. It's got a VFD, it runs 2 speeds. And I think I got it maybe at 42 hertz for low speed right now. I have noticed the suction line temperature was a little cool when I went out there and checked it this summer. And so that supply air is a little low. Now I could go slow down the speed of the compressor just a pinch, but I think it seems to like it. Normal 3-phase scrolls, I think they say you could go down to like 40 hertz or so, maybe even a little lower, but I don't know. It just seems like it starts better if I run at 42, and then it's 60, of course, for the high speed. So, the good one just stopped. So I'm just checking some baseline readings. This was higher, so I think these probes might be warming up a little bit more, so I may unplug them and zero them again. Getting some pretty. Yeah, and I think I might have zeroed the one when it was on the wrong tube. Zero these. There it goes. I zero that. So pretty low static pressure, as you can see across it. Now I'm reading before the coil, not just before the fan. I guess I could punch a hole here and read across the fan, which might be what this thing uses. But I'm going to double check where I thought I had this fan set on the fastest, and then probably one step down for the lower speed, but I might actually have it set even lower than that. So while it's on single stage only, I'm just going to kind of adjust my fan speed here a little bit, get a little more speed on it. It's been working pretty good, but I just have the feeling that the TXV's clamped down a little more than it needs to be right now. And you can see the supply air temperature, 49.8, leaving right there. It's probably, closer to 53 or so at the vents. So I'm going to go ahead and just take this open and adjust it. Got the screws out, getting ready to pop this cover. I took a picture of this so I could read it, because it's kind of dark up here. And I was pointing at the wrong thing. I was pointing over here for speeds. That's the thermostat connections on this. So right here, so it looks like you got your common, and then you got your G continuous, and then you got here for Y, which I have hooked up to Y2. And so I'm gonna check this tap, see where it's at. Looks like it's probably an X13 style. I don't even remember. And then I'm gonna check where this one's at. Move it up. Looking down here, looks like I have blue on the highest and green black on the lowest. So let's move that to like the middle setting. 1, 2 spots. Let's go with that. Let's cut it back on. All right, let it go a few seconds, 30 seconds or so, and we'll check back and see if it dials in. Funny thing is, I was looking around here and I saw this sticker. Of course, I put my camera on it to take the picture, and I did, and then it saw this and said, "You want to go to this website?" I said, "Sure." And I knew Thermal Zone was made by Rheem, really, and it went to the Rheem.com website. It said the serial number wasn't found, though. But these are probably heater specs, I'm guessing, or heater kits. Probably have to get the product data to actually look at what the baseline settings are for CFM, but I could golden screwdriver it this way. You can see I'm right at 20 degrees. So it definitely went up. TXV's probably still balancing out a little bit right there, but what was it running at? Like 49 degrees supply air. So now it's up to 57. So I'm going to kind of let it go for a minute and maybe drop that speed tap down to the in between those two. So I went from the slowest, it's 5 speeds, I went from the slowest to the medium. Number 3 out of 5, so I might try number 2. Yeah. Hey, I noticed that Rheem does something pretty cool here. I mean, I'm assuming if it's been like 5 years or so since I put this in, I'm assuming this was a notch for me to put this out, unless it was my own doing, but the expansion valve sensing bulb is put up here after the turn, like 10 inches up, just like you would on commercial, like Carrier and whatnot. Instead of just right after a turn in a compact, you know, where all the tubes are still short and turning and everything, try to clock it right, you get some weird stuff in there. So this one out here I have, it's not on a vertical, but it's a ways after the turn and kind of like at the number 2 position. I added a TXV to both my Goodmans when I moved in here, and then I changed out this unit. So I have mock Goodmans up and down, especially brown turd ones. I already changed stack relay to a regular fan relay, but I do have one Goodman still in my house. That's 24 years old. But I have had to do things to it. So, yep, it seems like it's supplier's crept up a bit. So we're now with the compressor at its fixed capacity, you know, 42 hertz. I think that's what I have it out there, unless I bumped it back down to 40. On low speed, you can see here that supplier kind of starting to suck a little bit. So I went 2 speed taps up and it went too far. And the external to the unit static is 0.27 inches. So I got a little bit more on the high side. You can kind of see it wasn't even hardly measurable before with it. It was running so slow. Now I would prefer, it was in the summer I think when I changed this, and I never did add a return plenum box. And neither one of these Goodmans didn't have this. Is the chainsaw Charlie likes to do, and most companies, when they like to just stick a flat plate on the back of the air handler, just slap the return duct on. They don't put no box on there for the air. I mean, it is almost as large as the opening, so it's probably okay. But anyway, and then I just used the supply plenum box that they have. I grew up in the mountains in a different county, and we hardly ever did this stuff. The guy I did was like a, you know, perfectionist with the ductwork, so he would build a squared around and get that distance. So you'd get that distance to compress the air, and then you'd go around, and then you would take off to your first branch and then step down the round as you went, and you'd go around the circumference of the house, attic, or underneath. A lot of them are underneath up there, and you just taper down the duct, making a turn and go around the house, and just take off to each. And the ductwork, the airflow was like great. You know, didn't see all the airflow problems until I moved down to Phoenix, and it's just like wham bam, thank you ma'am down here. So, you know, I'm doing too much talking. I need to move that speed tap. So I can probably just do it real quick. Since I already kind of looked at it before. It's not being juiced. Take it up on that one. Let's put it on that one. Here she blows. One reason I've always liked reams is just they've done this for years. This is so strong by having this rolled edge right here, and the way they do this, and they don't tuck it in, and like, you know, all these units, and then they fall, they get all saggy. They're just garbage. So way more integrity to these units. And I think I did kind of set this, that's probably where it was, but it is a pretty good center of gravity probably right there. So I'm going to let this go for a few seconds and see if that supply temperature gets more in the 53 to 55 degree range, my target. Go ahead and caption this before, in case it stops, because I'm right at set point down there. But it's dropping into the 55 degree range really slowly, but basically in the 55 degree range with the normal return air. It says it's 74, the Ecobee down low, obviously with the returns up higher, you know, your return's always higher than the space temperature. So looks like we're doing 55 degrees. That's great. That's kind of what I wanted. Instead of 49 degrees. And there's our final static. So I'm gonna hit my thermostat buttons and jack this thing up a couple degrees or down a few degrees, set point, so it'll go up to second stage real quick. Okay, I just heard it speed up. External static went up a little bit. Not a whole lot. Seems like most of the static is on the return side. And there's a negative number. That's actually, there's more static. Wait a minute. Unplug this stuff. Those are some weird readings. you get a lot of temperature change on Bluetooth meters. Sometimes you have to zero them out after every once in a while, or you start getting crappy readings, especially something this small of a value. Hook the return side back up. Yeah, something wasn't jiving with those numbers. That's weird. Tube in there. That should be reading higher than that. Yeah, it's working. Ain't nothing worse than junk readings, so then it makes you doubt some early readings. I did have it zeroed and plugged in, so we're also going by temperature. So the temperature did creep up when that fan and compressor sped up, but it might take a second for the TXV to kind of, but that might just be all it's got. I could go and set high speed to like 65 hertz, probably bring that number down, which would add capacity. This is weird that this reading is so. Let me move this probe one spot over. See if it does anything different there. Nope. That's so weird. This is just that little bit of supply side static pressure. That's just crazy though. And that probe's like that long, so that should be like right in the freaking fan blowing right into the tube. I should have almost put the hole over there, but I brought up some death tape. Thought that was death tape's regular tape, but just to cover up my holes. Anyway, I'm not going to worry about it. Because there's a second hole right close to it, but let's drop it down a little bit. I could drop this fan speed down one from, it's on the highest for Y2, so I could go to 4, which technically would drop that supply air temperature. But so I wonder if I should do that, or if I should actually just go and increase the compressor speed a little bit, since when you use Y2 you really need it, right? Remember, this ductwork was for 4 ton. All this upstairs, there's 5 bedrooms up here, and so I went down to a 3 ton, and it's been like that for 5 years or whatever it's been. So it's actually, and we got the 3.5 still downstairs. It's been keeping up. But this unit mostly has been running on low speed, but we're only just getting in. We're just getting into June after this weekend. It's like May 31st today, I believe. So today's the 31st, yeah. So it's the last day of May, and we got some clouds. But it's been mostly running on, low speed. We'll go look on the trend and see, because Ecobee does that, and see how often it's been using second stage. But it's been mostly on first stage, and first stage runs on my solar directly, so much that as soon as it's past 10 a.m. or before 2 or 3, it's got more than enough power to run the AC, and it's still charging the batteries somewhat. My batteries have been charged up every day so far. We'll see when the summer comes, but 30 kilowatt of batteries and hours of batteries, quite a bit. Yeah, it's stalled at 58 degrees. This is what it's been at on high speed. I should, for shits and giggles, just go out there and bump that up to 65 hertz. See what happens. You can hear the bastard Goodman running. Here's the Frankenstein unit. See what kind of power it's pulling. Kilowatts, dude. It might not have sped up to high speed for some reason. Oh, got a little issue. It says low there. So, give it a second. Make sure Y2 got connected back up out here. I remember now, I put this frickin' lockout. Oh, it's funny. When it runs on solar power, I forgot I hooked up this other contact. So when it's on inverter and not utility power, basically on batteries and sun, I lock out high speed. I forgot I did that. So all I have to do, I did make this so I can unplug it to bypass it. Let's do that real quick. That's you switch gears, flipping the phone around. So on 60 hertz now. So actually that was pretty good temperature for being locked down at 42 hertz. Let's go check it out. Might be able to slow that down actually. Okay, you can already see the supply air is dropping down. So that was what we saw. What was it, 58 or something where it stalled? That was with the compressor locked down at 42 hertz. Here it's sped up now. Yeah, down, getting at 55 now. Give it a second. So that's a little conundrum the way I have it hooked up. So whenever it's running on inverter power, not utility power, I have that contact in that transfer switch to lock out Y2 to my control outside so the compressor won't speed up. However, this fan will still speed up, get the Y2 signal. So I could either leave it the way it is, which you just, the fan speed just speeds up a little bit when it's in the lockout period, or I need to do something, you know, I think I'm gonna not lock it out. I was just gonna say, because my goal is to try to run this as much as I can on utility power. So if I leave it the way it was, it's gonna totally lock out second stage compressor all the time. And obviously when we get into June and July, we're gonna need second stage, just gonna have to. So I'm probably just gonna leave that lockout, my Y2 lockout out there bypassed for now, and see how it goes. If I ever do want to lock it out, I'll probably have to use some spare wires, if there is a couple spare wires, it looks like there might be, from outside to inside, to do a loop back to where it actually breaks Y2 here instead of out just at the unit. That way it would prevent this from speeding up, you know, likewise. So 55 degrees, and it's kind of slowing down. So we're pretty much right in the sweet spot. So if it does go to second stage, you can see it's going into kick-ass mode now. So that's weird. So we should be good. I'm sweating up here in this attic. I wouldn't mind getting some of that foam. It's something a lot of homeowners are doing, is just spraying and putting the insulation up there instead. This house is pretty fun to get back in some spots, though pretty scary too. And actually we're where I'm standing right now, you don't realize it because it seems like I'm further back than I am, but because of my closet, my bedroom's actually over that way. My hallway out of my bedroom's back behind here, which is where the return duct goes. You got return duct. Just keep this in mind when I walk through down there. I want to show you guys something. Return duct. Then the other return duct for that one's over there. So the two return ducts are over there on the west side. And then these air handlers are over here, and there's a catwalk. And then when you leave the catwalk, you're just sheetrock with insulation. It's a 30-foot drop if you fall out anywhere out there. If you fall through out there, it's 30 foot out in that area right in here. I'll show you guys why, if anybody hasn't watched my old videos. So looks like pretty locked in right there. So I'm gonna get this buttoned up and get the heck out of this attic. Okay, so there's the attic, right? Show you guys something. There's that return. There's that return. Remember, that was west of where I was standing by quite a bit. So the Goodman unit's about right here, which puts the catwalk right there, which puts that thermal zone ream right there. So if you leave that area of the catwalk, it's a big drop. This is a tall two-story. Yeah. Put the tools back, but so you can see that's the sky we're dealing with. Got the sun poking through a little bit. So it keeps going up and down on what the solar production is. But go in the mechanical room here I built. It's fan's hauling ass, so it must be getting pretty decent. Sun's poking through some of the clouds right now because we're hitting 5 kilowatts, but it was dropped down to like 3, even a little less earlier. So it's putting 20 amps at 48 volts into the batteries, or at that voltage there, pretty, into the batteries, and running 3.76. So that's not all the outside. Oh, I was just gonna say, look, it just satisfied. I turned this down to 125, by the way, because it's been so hot for the summer. 130 was running that, so that just stopped. That's good. Anti-short cycle delay. That's my heat pump for my water tank. Now it dropped down to what it's pulling just for the AC, 3 kilowatts. Now that doesn't reflect the blower. That's still on utility power. But yeah. So now down to 4.1. The clouds are obscuring the sun. But I got so many panels now that I'm still generating a pretty decent amount that it's actually running that 3 kilowatts for that compressor and fans outside and putting 20 amps of current. 20 amps not at high voltage, but 20 amps at, that low voltage, 52 volts right now, presently. I just walked back in this room real quick. The sun's peeking through the clouds, 6.3 kilowatts, almost maxing out my solar inverter charger. So you see, it's quite a bit of clouds. The sun's poking through as the clouds are moving across it. So we got another meter here, like I already showed you. It says 2.9 kilowatts right now. And we've done 336 kilowatt hours since I zeroed that, which is about a little over 2 weeks worth, I think. So tomorrow I will, or tonight maybe, I will zero this meter and I will zero this utility meter, which says 119 kilowatts. So since I zeroed those last time, 2.5 weeks ago, whatever it was, it's used triple the amount of power off of utility. At first I was just doing it on a timer, and then finally I said, screw it, just leave it on solar, and it's hung in there. So I'm going to leave this not connected so it can't reduce it. And 3 kilowatts, that's to kind of see it. Oh, so rudely interrupted by the Goodman. That's not me, that's that. So 60 hertz, cooling high. Yeah, kind of hard to narrate next to a Goodman bastard right there, but it was all nice and neat, and then I kind of like did some temporary stuff, and that's how you mess it up real quick. But I'm gonna rewire it at some point, because right now if utility power goes out, I lose the power of that transformer, which nothing will run. I need to run this transformer off of the inverter power, so I just have to move a couple things around for that, and then reconfigure this to probably default to. I'm gonna figure out how I'm gonna do that. Probably default to inverter power still. That way it always keeps the transformer ran and the control and everything running. And then it'll be allowed to go to utility when I turn that remote switch on in there, which energizes this. So it's just some little ideas I've been doing so I can have some remote control of when this switches over. I was just going to do it off of battery voltage, which I'm also going to utilize, so I can have it switch off of batteries when it gets to a certain point. So always have a little bit of batteries in case the power goes out. But I don't think it's going to run the batteries down. We'll see. We're going to try it for this month of June, see how it goes. So anyway, I'm going to call it there. Sorry about that Goodman unit. Here's my battery storage. Got the fan and I put a little hood there, but we're good to go for a while. We'll see how this goes for the next month. With that, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment. Catch you guys all later. Bastard.